Hello, folks. Welcome to another Club Star Wars news broadcast. And today we shall be talking about. Just going to get the ticker at the bottom. Wait a minute. Kathleen Kennedy. Is Kathleen Kennedy's tenure as head of a Lucasfilm coming to an end? So this is an article. Let me just share the screen. This is an article that was dropped on the 17th of May, so a few days ago. It's from Pirates and Princesses, which is an awesome website if you want to go and take a look at those guys. And it's by the actual author is WDW Pro, which is a person who has been pretty on the money when it's come to leaks in the past. So yeah, worth checking out. So here we go. Quietly, things have been shifting at Lucasfilm and the Walt Disney Company. One might say the mood is different in the house that George Lucas built. It started with the dramatic cleanup of social media behavior by Lucasfilm employees. Then, despite the Herculean efforts it would take to get Indiana Jones 5 into production, everything was thrown at making the movie a reality. The head of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, began scheduling appearances at the production of the movie, along with her husband, Frank Marshall, in a way that isn't often seen for executive producers. Next, the bad news for Star Wars and Disney Plus began subtly leaking from Disney, almost certainly in a soft, coordinated manner. Is Indy the swan song for Mrs. Kennedy? Kennedy is in the final year of her contract with Walt Disney Company for presiding over the studio, largely all about Star Wars. Her tenure has been a bumpy one. While her immediate box office success with The Force Awakens and Rogue One was monumental, things quickly devolved afterwards from a financial position. Whereas the other Disney properties grew in popularity, the economic importance, Star Wars began to diminish with the release of The Last Jedi. Yeah, most definitely did. It was a steady drop until The Mandalorian. I mean, to be honest with you, if I'd have been in charge of Star Wars to begin with, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, I could have had a successful first release of the movie. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is anybody could. It was Star Wars. Anybody could have made a movie and millions of people would have shown up to watch it because it's Star Wars. It doesn't matter who was in charge, to be honest with you, I don't think, because Star Wars will sell itself. What happens after that, isn't it? You know, I mean, Rogue One, the first movie, The Force Awakens, was great, in my opinion. Not everybody agrees, and that's fine. It could have been better. I'll give you that too. But for the first release, it did the job. Rogue One, the movie that came afterwards, again, it was set in the original sort of Empire versus Rebellion era. It did a good job, you know. Again, good movie. But then The Last Jedi happened, right? And that's where everything started to fall apart. It split the fan base. Like, you either loved it or you hated it. Well, people will argue it's 50-50. I think it's more people don't like the movie than do, in my opinion. Again, you can use websites like Rotten Tomatoes to back that up, even though, you know, people use that when it's convenient for them. But anyway, we'll carry on. If you've been following Star Wars, you've probably read articles like the one above. You know that there are people who defend Kathleen Kennedy and those who despise how she's performed. But the tenuous relationship she's had with Disney was ultimately frayed when Favreau demonstrated just how popular Star Wars can still be with The Mandalorian. And yet that was somewhat squandered with the mishandling of Gina Carano. Yeah, that was a shit show. Whatever your opinion of the actress, the way in which she was terminated from the company was a public relations nightmare. It was. I hate to say this, but no, I don't hate to say it. The people who run Lucasfilm behind the scenes, that like Kathleen Kennedy's side of things anyway, are Mickey Mouse. They're They're not very professional at all. They are what you'd describe as activists, political activists. They have no place running Lucasfilm at all. In fact, all political activists should get out of entertainment as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, not to get in a rant. Now, however, things are beginning to change behind the scenes. Of these heads, Feige is seen as the most essential executive, having proved his mettle with the massive success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and streaming shows like WandaVision. After it was announced in 2019 that Feige would produce a Star Wars movie, there were rumours that he might assume more control of Lucasfilm. However, insiders say that Feige is fully committed with his Marvel duties and has no ambition to lead Lucasfilm or take more of her own. And that's from Variety. In the above quote from a Variety article by Brent Lang and Matt Donnelly, you'll notice the insiders they've spoken with are purposefully throwing Kathleen Kennedy, as well as Pixar leaders, under the proverbial bus. Kevin Feige, head of Marvel, is the real essential executive, they say, and while they keep praise on other Disney executives throughout their expose, Kennedy is essentially forgotten, other than this throwaway mention. Her only reason for being included in the story is to say that Feige could have had her job, except he doesn't want it. And there's the article on Twitter. That lines up with what we've heard for the past few years. We've reported for the past year that Disney would likely be amicable to some easy way to part with Mrs. Kennedy. But what's telling is that Variety is now putting that information out into public sphere, into the public sphere. Sorry, from their position as a trade publication. And make no mistake, Disney use outlets like Variety to tip the industry as to where they like to go. Yeah, we've heard that from Cameron Pasha. You know, if you want to see which direction Hollywood are going, check out the trades like Variety. This is where you hear things first. You see, like you'll get a rumor, and then that's 50-50 whether it's true or not. But you'll definitely get a sense of where things are heading by looking at the. You've almost got to read between the lines in things like Variety. If you listen to the second quarter earnings report held by Disney last week, you may have noticed that they weren't thrilled with Disney Plus gross in mature markets. What are mature markets? Well, they're essentially places where Disney Plus has been launched longer than brand new geographical locations. Given that Disney Plus is still a very new service, it's kind of fun to listen to Disney refer to mature markets. The biggest mature market is the United States, and that's also the place where Star Wars has by far the most significance. So wait, why do they call the United States a mature market? The answer is because growth has slowed to such an extent in the second quarter that they seem to be readjusting their expectations for the increase in subscribers. Privately, sources say that Disney knows they have a Star Wars problem. Subscribers began either slowing down or dropping after the Gina Carano situation. I was one of them. The goodwill that was earned back for Star Wars via the Jon Favreau universe of Star Wars storytelling was decimated by mismanaged Lucasfilm. Perhaps worse, the following release of the High Republic line of Star Wars fiction was an utter failure. Yeah, it's I am not interested in the High Republic whatsoever, and I don't know anybody who is personally. It's got a rock for a character, for goodness sake, Geode or whatever his name is. Consider the recent Star Wars material other than The Mandalorian. Star Wars Resistance was a flop, yeah. Star Wars Galaxy Adventures was mocked vociferously. The High Republic is perhaps the worst ever received content since a certain holiday special. The Bad Batch has launched to lackluster excitement. Is there any buzz? This is true. Although there've been two, is it two or three? At this point, I think two episodes of the Bad Batch released so far. I mean, it's not setting the world on fire, is it? To be honest with you, it's okay as far as Star Wars is concerned. But that the excitement what Star Wars once had has been extinguished by Kathleen Kennedy and her crew, basically. If there's one thing that will get people like Bob Chapek to make big decisions quickly, it's declining stock prices. And there's no better way to drive down Disney stock at the moment than to fail on delivering subscribers, increasing Disney Plus content. Does all of this mean that Kathleen Kennedy is most assuredly exiting the role she's held since before Disney purchased Lucasfilm? Not necessarily. We could see Kennedy getting a 1-year limited extension. It's also possible that she could be bumped into a legacy role. But financially, it no longer seems feasible for Disney to keep her on board. And her latest endeavour continues a pattern of incompetency. We're now hearing from sources and from public reports that Indiana Jones 5 is again running behind schedule. Whereas the movie was supposed to begin shooting this spring, we're now finding out that this movie is still filling in casting holes. The movie is now reportedly scheduled to not shoot with Harrison Ford until August at the earliest, and may actually shoot after Guardians of the Galaxy 3 begins. Considering one injury to Ford could end the entire movie for good, the effort and money being thrown into the film is quite a gamble. And if Indiana Jones 5 can't make it to theatres by its latest release date of July the 29th, 2022, you could potentially be looking at a release date where Harrison Ford is closer to 81 years old. I mean, we're rooting, I'm rooting for him, but this is becoming quite the unprecedented action film. Can you imagine an octogenarian cracking a whip into a summer blockbuster? More power to Harrison Ford if he can pull it off, but this man is a legend after all, and people are staying healthy longer, I suppose. So, and yeah, I mean, he's fit for his age, but he's still going to be like in his 80s. So, I mean, fingers crossed for him. But all of this is to say that Indiana Jones 5 has been a mess to make, and they've delayed it to the point that it's a very edge of impossibility. That sort of been Kathleen Kennedy's ride at Lucasfilm, for better or worse. While she's managed to stay afloat this long, don't be surprised if the Force's female executive is finally on her way out. And perhaps a Hail Mary Indiana Jones 5 film that is actually turns out well for everyone involved would be the way for her to ride off into the sunset. That would certainly explain the amount of resources going into such a high-risk film attempt. And that's a story. So let us know what you think in the comments below and what you would like to see, or who you would like to see as a replacement if she does in fact leave the studio this year or next. So there you go, folks. Let us know what you think in the comments below. See you on the next episode of Club Star Wars. Please give us a subscribe and a like and all that jazz, and we'll see you next time.